Well, this is public speaking. And how many of you are here because you want to be? Raise your hand if you're here because you want to be, because you want to become better public speakers. Just one or two of you. Okay, how many of you are here because it's required? Raise your hand. Okay, you don't offend me. If it wasn't required, I wouldn't have a job. So I'm glad it's a required course. Now, public speaking terrifies a lot of people. Statistics show that 97% of people fear public speaking more than they fear death. So if you're among those people, you're certainly not alone. So it is a very scary thing. A lot of us are fearful of getting up in front of others, being kind of on center stage. And so the same thing happens from semester to semester, unfortunately. I see some people show up the first couple of weeks and then slowly they don't show up any longer. Because as the nearer we approach a speech, they start to become fearful. And then they let that fear consume them, and then they drop the class. So sometimes I see students add, drop, and I see them semester after semester until it's their last semester here, and they have no choice but to take it. So if you're one of those students that has attempted public speaking before, let this be the semester that you finish it. And one of the things that I will do is help you to learn to manage that fear and anxiety that you might be experiencing. Because you're certainly not alone, and I found from past experience that public speaking classes are really supportive because everybody's in the same boat. If you talk to your neighbor on your right or your left right now, I bet you they would say they're experiencing the same fear that you're experiencing of getting up in front of a group of people and delivering a speech. So we're going to take little baby steps to get you there. And the first few weeks of class, I'm going to cover a lot of tools and give you some strategies for how to manage the fear or anxiety that you might be experiencing. So why do you think they make you take this class? Is it to torture you? Why do you think this class is required? Who has some ideas about that? Who? Why? Yeah.
I guess it's a good idea that everyone goes out in the world prepared to communicate effectively with other people and be able to represent themselves when it's in workplace or in a school environment.
Good answer. Anybody else have any ideas why public speaking is required? Yeah, there's a lot of people, including probably some of you, that are looking for jobs in the workplace. And if you look at the requirements of employers, one of the things they're looking for is usually at the top of their list is good communication skills. So regardless of the type of job that you're in, you need to communicate with others. You're communicating with your coworkers, your employers, your customers, particularly if you're in retail or sales, where you have to communicate with people. You want to be effective in your communication. Also, it might land you that promotion. If you're not able to communicate your ideas effectively, your employer might not advance you to the next level. But if you're good at speaking and communicating, then they're going to see you as a valuable employee, and you might get that job promotion. You might get that raise. And when you go on a job interview, employers are looking at your communication skills. Do you make eye contact with the employer during an interview? What's your body language saying about you? Because we can communicate without talking. That's called nonverbal communication. Have you heard of that? It's the way we communicate with our body, the way we stand. If you're standing straight, it might communicate that you're confident. Whereas if you're slouched, you might communicate the message that you're a little bit insecure. Also, we communicate with our hands. When we're talking to our friends, we gesture naturally. Some of us over-exaggerate sometimes. But we communicate with our hands. We don't normally stand there like this, as a robot when we're speaking to, our friends or in class. So we have to learn to do that when we're in front of a camera, when we're speaking publicly as well. So there's a phrase that says, you cannot not communicate. Because regardless whether you're saying something, you're communicating to me. I can look at you right now, and by the way you're sitting, by your eye contact, I can pretty much tell maybe who wants to be here, who doesn't want to be here, who's bored, who's tired. So I can tell a lot just by looking at you. So even though you think you might not be communicating, you are. We communicate all the time. So we not only need to be aware of the way we communicate verbally, but we need to be aware of the way we communicate non-verbally as well. It's kind of a package deal. So that's what we're going to learn about in this class. So communicating is really important to all areas of your life. I know in other classes, and it might be like an English class, an astronomy class, biology class, even a math class, you might be asked to do an oral presentation. A lot of students tell me they're asked to get up and stand up in front of the class and do presentations, not only in public speaking, but in their other courses. So this will help you in your other classes as well. In fact, students tell me at the end of the semester that they wish they took this class the first semester here, because it would have helped them in all their other presentations. So I think at the end of the semester, you're going to walk away feeling proud of yourself and accomplished that you stuck with it, you did it, and now you have a better idea of how to communicate more effectively. So it's going to help you in your relationships as well. You know, at school, at home, you know, in organizations that you might belong to. We offer other classes here at the college, you know, in communication, because this is a public speaking class, but it falls under the umbrella of what's called communication. So some of you might have already taken some of the other communication classes here, but we offer interpersonal communication. That's one-on-one communication, how to improve your relationships, you know, how to improve your conflict resolution skills, how to do problem solving in relationships and things like that. And we'll learn a few of those things in here, but if you want to get a whole semester's worth about that, you might want to take interpersonal communication. But one of the things it says in interpersonal communication is we have to become better listeners. Because oftentimes we don't think about listening as being part of the communication process, and it's really one of the essential parts that we, you know, sometimes really don't listen. When somebody's talking to you, do you ever find yourself looking at your cell phone or doing some other kind of task? Well, that's telling the person that they're not really of value, that what they're saying doesn't mean something to you. So what we have to do is put down those cell phones, you know, focus on the person, make eye contact with them, and truly listen. Listening is a verb. And if we all do that, our relationships should improve dramatically. Also, we need to get better at eye contact. And that's part of listening too, making eye contact. Let the other person know that you're listening to them. You're really, you know, communicating with them and focusing on what they have to say. So we need to become better at making eye contact too. For some of us, that's hard, and it can even be a cultural issue, because in some cultures it's considered disrespectful to make eye contact, especially with your elders. So it can be an obstacle that you need to overcome. But there's a lot of components to public speaking and communication. We offer another class that's called intercultural communication, and we live in a diverse society, you know, not only here in our city, in our county, our community, our state, our nation, but we can buy products from people from all over the world. We can communicate from people, you know, halfway around the globe. So we need to become aware of cultural differences and ways that we can approach people and communicate more effectively cross-culturally. For example, in the United States, you know, we're very direct and we're very assertive. And when we're doing business with somebody, we say, okay, cut to the chase, get to the bottom line, here's the contract, sign. But if we did that in another culture, that would be very offensive and we probably would not get the business. In fact, for those of you that have had some intercultural communication or other type of culture classes, you probably know that cultures are divided into two categories. There's either what's called an individualistic culture or a collectivist culture, and it really is the characteristics of a culture. For example, in the United States, we're considered an individualistic culture. That means, like I just said, we're very direct, we're very assertive, we're very much to the point. We're a collectivist culture. They're much more group-oriented. They would rather work in groups. In our culture, we don't like working in groups too much. That's an individualistic culture. We like to be by ourselves. And in a collectivist culture, we enjoy working in a group. We're more indirect. We don't want to hurt other people's feelings. They're less assertive in a collectivist culture. So So we need to know these differences. So if we go to a collectivist culture to do business and we want them to sign the contract the first time we meet them, they'll be highly offended and we probably won't get the business. So what we would need to do is understand what we need to do to conduct business. And what we would do is the first time we meet, we get to know them. We establish a relationship with them. Maybe go out to lunch or dinner and get to know a little bit about them. We might not even do business the second time we meet. We might want to get to know a little bit about their family. We might want to go, to play golf or some other activity where we get to know the person. And then possibly by the third or fourth time that we meet the person, then they would be willing to do business with us. So we need to adapt ourselves to different cultures in order to conduct business or establish relationships with people, because there's a lot of differences that we need to be aware of. So that's what's intercultural communication. So communication is a very large umbrella. There's lots of classes that fall under that umbrella, and this one happens to be public speaking. But over the course of the semester, you'll learn a little bit about some of these things I've talked about: interpersonal communication and intercultural. One of the things too about interpersonal that I think is one of the best things about the course is learning how to deal with conflict. And one of the things it tells you in the interpersonal communication course is that when you have conflict with somebody, we're likely to place blame on them. Have you ever found yourself saying, "You make me so mad. Why do you always do that?" So when we use what's called you messages, we're escalating the conflict because we're placing blame on the other person. So what it will tell you if you take an interpersonal communication class is that we need to accept responsibility for our communication, and we need to use I statements. So rather than place blame on someone, we would say, when we're in this situation, I feel badly. When you stay out late and don't call me, I feel like I'm not of value to you. So when you use I statements, it lets the other person know how you feel. You're not placing blame, and hopefully the conflict won't escalate. So there's all these little tidbits that you can learn to really help to improve your relationship. So that's just kind of a glimpse into the other classes that we offer here, but you'll be learning a little bit about that in our communication class, okay? So what I think I'll do next, I'll go ahead and take roll and see who's here, who wants to be added to the class, and then I'll go ahead and review the course syllabus, due dates, and I told you the